Welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive. I want you to imagine someone who sits down every single day and eats like a full kilogram of pure red meat.
Wow. That's a massive amount of meat.
Right. And then he follows that up with 9 to 12 eggs.
Yeah.
If you try to put a vegetable on his plate, he literally treats it like enemy number one.
Oh, man. So you're probably picturing, the ultimate hardcore bro science fitness influencer, right?
Exactly. The guy who goes out for mixed grills, ignores the salad, skips the bread because he thinks it's empty calories, and literally dips his steak into hummus.
Which is quite an image.
It is. But what if I told you that was actually the past diet of a man named Osman, who is now a practitioner with 5 decades of experience in yoga, meditation, and energy healing?
It's a really jarring image, but honestly, it perfectly sets up the reality of what we're looking at today. Osman didn't just spend his entire life sitting on a mountain eating raw walnuts.
Right, he definitely didn't.
He went from the absolute extreme of meat-heavy macronutrient optimization to this really profound understanding of holistic wellness. And our mission today is to explore his highly practical approach to health.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because he takes those ancient yogic sciences and just blends them with the messy, everyday realities that you and I actually live with.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because having 50 years of experience in subtle energy practices gives him this fascinating vantage point. He approaches holistic health almost like a really complex combination lock.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, it's not about finding one magic number like some fad diet or a single supplement that's going to suddenly make you feel 25 again.
Right, there's no silver bullet.
Exactly. It's about aligning several specific dials: your mind, your food, your water, your movement, and your sleep. But before we start turning those dials, we really need to establish the ground rules he sets.
And Osman is incredibly explicit about this up front. Everything we're discussing today, all the natural therapies, the lifestyle changes, the energy practices, they are strictly complementary to licensed medical treatment.
So, not replacements.
Definitely not replacements. The goal of aligning this combination lock is to enhance your body's baseline capacity to cope with physical or psychological challenges. If you have a medical condition, you consult a doctor.
Right.
These practices are meant to work alongside modern medicine to make it more effective, not to subvert it.
So, we're not rebelling against the pharmacy here. With that understood, let's look at the first dial on the lock. You have to start at the very top, which is the mind.
Yeah, the mind-body connection is huge for him.
It really is. Osman connects psychological stress directly to physical health. He specifically points out that there are actually 72 general categories of psychosis, and many of those are directly linked to bodily inflammation.
And to understand why that matters, we have to look at the biology of how stress physically manifests.
Right, the actual mechanics of it.
Yeah. When you're constantly stressed, whether it's from like a high-pressure job or just doom scrolling on your phone at night, your nervous system stays locked in this fight-or-flight state.
Which just floods you with cortisol.
Cortisol and adrenaline, exactly. And over time, that chronic chemical flood starts degrading your immune system. It triggers systemic inflammation, your joints ache, your gut acts up, your brain feels foggy.
It's just a total cascade of issues.
It is. That's why Osman positions mindfulness not just as, a nice way to relax on a Sunday afternoon, but as the fundamental, non-negotiable first step.
And the timeline he gives for that is surprisingly accessible. He says practicing disciplined mindfulness for just 6 weeks can yield massive stress-relieving results in the body.
6 weeks isn't that long when you think about it.
It's really not, but he does make a bold assertion here that we need to dissect. He says that if practiced correctly, mindfulness can actually be more powerful than psychiatric drugs.
Yeah, that is a heavy claim.
Right. And he says that someone could slowly wean themselves off pharmaceutical dependence. But wait, suggesting breathing exercises can replace psychiatric medication feels like a massive leap for someone genuinely struggling with clinical issues. Isn't that a bit irresponsible?
This raises an important question, and it's exactly why he pairs it with a massive, non-negotiable caveat. Anyone looking to reduce their reliance on pharmaceutical drugs has to do so gradually, and only under a doctor's strict observation.
Okay, so you don't just throw your pills away.
No, absolutely not. Sudden cessation of psychiatric medication is incredibly dangerous because your brain chemistry has physically adapted to the presence of those compounds.
So how do those two things reconcile, like the ancient mindfulness and the modern medication?
Think of the medication like a cast for a broken leg.
Oh, okay.
Modern psychiatric drugs are often crucial for managing acute, immediate symptoms so you can actually function, just get out of bed.
Right.
They stabilize the system. Mindfulness is the physical therapy. It addresses the root cause by actively cooling down that systemic inflammation over time. Deep, disciplined breathing physically stimulates the vagus nerve.
Which tells your body to chill out.
Exactly. It signals your brain to lower your heart rate and stop producing stress hormones. So you use the medication to hold the structure together, and you use the 6-week mindfulness practice to slowly rebuild the baseline of your nervous system.
And then eventually you taper off.
Right. If your doctor agrees the baseline is strong enough, they work in partnership.
That makes the mechanics of it so much clearer. So mindfulness acts as the thermostat, basically lowering the body's stress baseline.
Exactly.
But you can't keep that inflammation down if you're actively throwing gasoline on the fire every time you sit down to eat. Which brings us to what's actually on the plate, the second dial on our lock.
Yeah, the transition from mental fuel to physical fuel. If you're trying to reduce underlying inflammation, you have to look at highly processed foods. And Osman specifically zeroes in on sugar.
Oh, sugar is everywhere.
It is. And he points to scientific findings showing that the physiological addictive pathway sugar forms in the brain mimics the exact same pathway as heroin.
Which is just a terrifying comparison. I mean, he notes that because of that specific neural pathway, sugar is potentially more addictive than cocaine. It completely reframes how we think about diet.
It really does.
Yeah.
It shifts the entire paradigm away from personal guilt. We so often think of, reaching for a donut as a failure of willpower.
Like you're just weak.
Right. But biologically, when you consume highly processed sugar, it just floods your brain's dopamine receptors. And over time, those receptors downregulate, meaning you need more and more sugar just to feel a normal level of pleasure.
Wow.
So if the substance you're eating is hijacking the brain's reward centers with the ferocity of a narcotic, you aren't just fighting a sweet tooth, you're fighting a deeply ingrained chemical dependency.
Knowing that, here's where it gets really interesting. How does a yogi with 50 years of experience suggest we eat to break that addiction? Because hearing him talk about energy and healing, you'd assume the answer is becoming like a strict raw vegan.
Yeah, you would think the pendulum swings all the way to the other side.
Right, going from a kilogram of meat to eating nothing but kale.
But what makes Osman's approach so grounded is his 70-30 plate rule. He recognizes that expecting everyone to adopt a strict, raw, whole food, plant-based diet is just a recipe for failure.
It's just not sustainable for most people.
Exactly. Instead, he advocates that 70% of your plate should be from the plant and vegetable kingdom. The other 30% is varied protein.
And he's incredibly realistic about that 30%. He suggests rotating it. Legumes one day, fish the next, chicken the day after, and even an occasional red meat meal once a week.
Right, keeping it varied.
The focus is just on wholesome formats, avoiding the highly processed, preservative-packed versions of those proteins. But within that 70% plant allocation, he introduces a concept that sounds a bit mystical at first.
Oh, the living foods?
Yeah, living foods. Foods that contain life force energy, which he refers to as qi in Chinese sciences or prana in yogic traditions.
Let's pull that out of the mystical realm for a second and ground it in biology.
Please do.
When Osman talks about living foods carrying qi or prana, he's practically talking about intrinsic enzymes. Living foods are foods that are alive in their natural state.
Like raw whole walnuts.
Yes, raw whole walnuts that you crack open yourself, not the ones that have been roasted, salted, and sealed in a bag for a year. Fresh, raw broccoli, vibrant salads, unprocessed fruits.
Why does the raw aspect matter so much, though?
Because of how our bodies process energy. Human digestion varies wildly, Some people have more acidic stomachs geared toward breaking down meat, while others are more alkaline.
Right, everyone's a bit different.
But universally, when you eat a raw, living food, the natural enzymes inside that plant haven't been denatured or destroyed by intense heat or processing.
Oh, so they survived the cooking process because there is no cooking process.
Exactly. Those intact enzymes literally assist your body in breaking the food down. The food basically brings its own scissors to the digestive process.
I love that. Brings its own scissors.
It optimizes your body's energy efficiency because your pancreas and stomach don't have to work nearly as hard to extract the nutrients.
That makes the 70-30 rule feel so much more attainable. It gives you the grace to be human. You can still enjoy a burger occasionally as long as it's balanced by a massive portion of living, vibrant foods doing the heavy lifting for your digestion.
Exactly. It's about balance.
But even the most perfectly balanced plate of raw walnuts and fresh greens can't be utilized if your internal environment is bone dry.
Which brings us to the next point.
Right, because processing that fuel requires the ultimate solvent. which is our third dial water. The human body is, on average, 70% water. Osman gives a baseline recommendation of 2 to 2.8 liters of pure water daily.
Which is a solid amount.
It is, though he personally drinks 3.5 to 5 liters a day, even during the fasting month of Ramadan when the window to drink is restricted to just the nighttime hours.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yeah, but he draws a massive line in the sand between pure water and what he calls poison liquids.
Right. He lumps sodas, juices, and sports drinks into that poison category, but he goes a step further and includes a hot cup of tea or a cup of coffee.
Okay, hold on. I have to defend the listener here.
Go for it.
Calling a morning cup of coffee or a harmless cup of green tea poison sounds insanely extreme. Most people are just trying to wake up, get the kids dressed, and survive the morning commute.
It does sound extreme. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, you look at the mechanics of cellular hydration. Osman isn't saying a cup of coffee is going to strike you dead.
Well, that's a relief.
He's looking at what the body actually needs to process the 70-30 plate we just talked about. The fundamental goal of the body's water supply is to flush out metabolic waste and transport nutrients into your cells.
Right.
Caffeine is a diuretic. It artificially stimulates your central nervous system while actively signaling your kidneys to flush water out of your body before your cells can actually use it for that deep cleaning process.
Oh, I see. It's like pouring premium water into a bucket, but the coffee punches a hole in the bottom of it. You're working in direct opposition to your own hydration goals.
Precisely. You're poisoning the actual process of hydration.
Yeah.
And the hyperpalatable sugars and artificial flavors in modern drinks have completely warped our taste buds.
Oh, for sure. We're so used to everything being super sweet.
But Osman notes something very encouraging here. Once you clear those artificial flavors out of your system and habituate to pure water, your palate recalibrates. Water actually becomes delicious again, rather than feeling like a chore.
So we have a clear mind managing the stress baseline. We have a clean 70-30 diet providing living enzyme-rich fuel. And we have profound cellular hydration acting as the solvent to process it all.
That's 3 dials down.
Yeah. But to carry all of those internal benefits into your 70s, 80s, and beyond, the physical frame carrying it all has to be reinforced, which leads us to the fourth dial.
Structural strength. And here, Osman delivers a stunning bit of honesty for a master yogi. He flatly states that yoga alone will not make your muscles strong.
I found that fascinating. We constantly conflate flexibility and mobility with actual structural strength, and they just aren't the same thing.
They really are.
Yoga is incredible for isometric holds and keeping your joints lubricated, but it lacks the progressive overload required to build dense muscle tissue.
Osman emphasizes the absolute necessity of dedicated strength training, particularly once you cross the age of 50. And the biology here is rooted in something called Wolff's Law.
Wolff's Law.
Yeah, it dictates that bones will adapt to the degree of mechanical stress placed on them. When you lift heavy weights, the pulling of the muscle on the bone stimulates cells called osteoblasts to build denser bone tissue.
Oh, wow. So you're literally building stronger bones by lifting.
Exactly. That is the defining factor that slows down osteoporosis. It's the difference between remaining independent and self-reliant into your centenarian years versus becoming frail.
And he doesn't just preach this, he practices it rigorously. He weight trains 4 times a week. And I love that a 50-year energy master defers to a U.S. professional coach with a PhD in fitness science for his programming.
Right. It shows zero ego.
Zero. He just wants the most effective modern science to support his frame. And if lifting weights feels too intimidating, he offers the absolute baseline alternative. Just walk 10,000 steps, or roughly 2 miles, every single day. Just force your body weight to move through space.
But the physical exertion, the lifting, the walking is only half of the equation for that physical frame. Breaking the muscles down in the gym doesn't make you stronger.
Right, you have to actually rebuild them.
The transition from breaking them down to actually building them up brings us to the 5th dial, which is recovery.
Specifically, 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
What's fascinating here is how it all ties together. When you lift weights, you're intentionally creating micro tears in your muscle tissue. When you eat the 70-30 diet, you're providing the raw building blocks.
And the water is the solvent to transport them.
Exactly. But the actual construction work, that synthesis almost exclusively happens during the deep stages of sleep.
Because that's when your body releases human growth hormone, right?
Yes. And it's also when your brain activates the glymphatic system to literally wash away the toxic byproducts that accumulated during the day.
So sleep is the cleanup crew.
It is. If you shortchange your sleep, you are essentially buying all the expensive materials to build a house, dumping them on the front lawn, and then sending the construction workers home before they can even pour the foundation.
That is such a vivid way to put it. And Osman makes a confession here that makes him so incredibly relatable. He admits that he sometimes commits what he calls a massive physical crime.
A sleep crime.
Yeah, because his energy levels from his practices get so high, or just because life gets in the way, he sometimes sleeps for less than 7 hours a night. He calls it naughty, he accepts the mistake, and he actively course corrects so it doesn't become a habit.
It's a great reframing. He views a lack of sleep not just as, like, feeling groggy the next day, but as a literal crime against his own cellular repair.
And it perfectly mirrors what so many listeners deal with. We do this thing called revenge bedtime procrastination, where we stay up late staring at our phones just to reclaim a few hours of personal time after a stressful day.
Oh, everyone does that.
Knowing that even a highly disciplined master struggles with going to bed on time is just really encouraging. You don't have to be a flawless machine. You just have to recognize when a dial is slipping and gently turn it back into alignment.
Which brings us full circle to the final overarching concept that glues all of these dials together: your internal narrative.
Yeah. You can have the perfect 70-30 plate. You can drink your 3 liters of pure water. You can lift weights 4 times a week with a PhD coach and sleep exactly 8 hours a night. But all of that physical maintenance is completely hollow if the internal narrative driving the machine is toxic.
A positive mindset really completes the holistic circle. Osman reiterates that your thinking methodology has to actively reinforce your well-being.
So what does that look like in practice?
He recommends purposefully seeking out positive peer groups, surrounding yourself with people who elevate your mindset rather than trapping you in cycles of complaining and stress.
The people you hang around really rub off on you.
They do. And if you find yourself stuck in a negative loop, he even suggests taking self-motivation courses to learn how to reframe your thoughts.
And his final piece of advice is perhaps the most crucial for anyone listening who tends to adopt a new lifestyle. By going completely all in, do not become fanatical.
Fanaticism is just another form of psychological stress.
It really is.
If you become obsessed with tracking every single macro, or panicking because you only drank 2 liters of water instead of 3, or stressing because you ate a piece of cake at a birthday party, you are generating the exact psychological inflammation that the mindfulness practice was supposed to cure.
You're defeating the whole purpose.
Exactly. Osman suggests approaching these wellness topics periodically. Check in with your habits once a month or once a fortnight to ensure you're on track, but don't let the pursuit of health consume your entire identity.
So bringing all of this together, what does this all mean for you? It means true wellness is a synergy. It's the marriage of ancient mindfulness with highly practical modern habits.
Yeah, saying that balance.
Right. It's understanding the profound biological truth that your mind and your body are communicating with each other every single second. It means giving yourself the grace of a 70-30 plate, enjoying life, while letting vibrant, living foods do the heavy lifting for your digestion.
And hydrating properly.
Yes, drinking enough water to actually run your internal systems, lifting something heavy so your bones remember they're needed, and protecting your sleep so your body can rebuild itself.
When all those dials align, the lock opens.
But as we've learned today, certain things can actively jam those delicate mechanisms, the poisons. So here's the question I want you to mull over today. If physical ailments are deeply linked to our psychological stresses and our daily habits, wait, let me rephrase that. If they are so deeply linked, what is the one perfectly legal, everyday poison that you are consuming right now that is quietly working against your ultimate well-being?
That's a tough question to face.
It is. Is it highly processed sugar hijacking your brain's reward centers? Is it a toxic social media feed driving up your systemic inflammation? Or is it a chronic lack of sleep preventing your body from doing its most vital repair work? Find that one poison jamming your lock, and you might just figure out how to finally open it.